And good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Going Nuclear presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. You can follow Madison on Twitter at madtravels24. You can follow the show on Twitter at Going Nuclear CLE.
Hello.
I'm still here. It must be Ethan.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess we'll keep it rolling, I suppose, because I think we are live, so we're here. This is what happens when you're live, I guess. I apologize.
No.
I do not have your Twitter handle in front of me, but we have Yvette with us. So if you want to give your Twitter handle and kind of give a recap, I know you have a podcast we want to talk about. And if I had the notes in front of me, I would lead you in a little more, but take it away. What's your podcast? What's your Twitter handle?
Oh, that's okay. I'm Yvette. My Twitter handle is Yvette M. LaBoy. And my podcast is Bougie Sports. And you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook.
Nice. So what kind of stuff do you cover? It's like fantasy sports, I think. Is that right? On your podcast?
Yeah. Well, actually, I really don't cover anything, to be honest. I'm just kind of starting out. So basically just a lot of shorts right now. We filmed a lot of things. I filmed a couple of things at some local bars here in Youngstown, where I'm from. I did some tailgating that still has to come out and a few other things. So
awesome. That's very exciting. I'd heard that you were like a fantasy sports guru, is what I was told. Is that good information or bad information?
It's good information. Well, I'm a self-proclaimed fantasy football guru.
Gotcha.
So.
If you can back it up with some winnings, right? That's all that really matters. You make a little money off of the season.
If you know anything about fantasy football, the best team typically doesn't win. So I did not win the Super Bowl, but I did get into the Super Bowl and lost. So sucks.
I'm gonna use that because I have a dynasty league and I think I finished dead last, but I have some good rookies, and I am going with that logic for why I didn't win. I have the best team.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when people play for the first time, they usually always win because they don't overthink things like we do. Like when you play a lot of time and you're just trying to overanalyze it. I think the fact that they just are just whatever, because fantasy football, it's a lot of skill. You should know your players and your matchups, but it's a lot of luck too.
All right, guys, I am sorry about that. Thank you so much for covering for me here. I do apologize of all the times for my internet to suddenly crap out on me. This was an inopportune time. So like I was saying, I don't know what I just missed there, but Madison, Yvette, wanted to welcome our guest, Yvette M. LaBoy on Twitter. Yvette, you are a social media presence, a fantasy sports guru. And you have self-proclaimed. Well, hey, you know what? I saw that you appeared on the NFL Network's Fantasy and Friends program. How exciting was that to be on a national broadcast?
Oh my gosh, it was so exciting. And it was just one of those flukes, you know what I mean? I was watching TV one night and they're like, if you want to be on the show, go on to NFL.com. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm like, I can be on the show. And then I put in the application. They just asked you a little bit about your fantasy team. And then the producers called me the next day in an interview with them. They're like, do you want to go on the show today? I'm like, okay. So I went on the show and then I ended up going back on 6 times after that. So it was only supposed to be once and they must have liked me. So.
That's impressive. That must speak to your fantasy football skills and general personality. How'd you do in fantasy football this season? Are you playing through the playoffs?
Well, like I was telling her, Addison, the best team in fantasy never wins. That's what I think. So I went to the championship, to the Super Bowl game, but I did not win. I sadly lost.
That is a bummer. I had to give up on fantasy football. I don't know about you, Madison, but I gave up on it because it just got to be too frustrating trying to watch the Browns and be upset with how the Browns were doing, and then having to double that upsettedness level. And upsettedness is, I don't think, is a real word, but being upset with my fantasy football team and disappointed with them, or then trying to figure out, okay, do I want to root for this player who's playing against the Browns? How do you balance that out? It was tough, but I kind of just like, I let it fall by the wayside. Do you play any other fantasy sports?
I dabbled a little bit in fantasy basketball, but it's just way too much. Too many games, you know what I mean? It was just a lot. So no, I'm just basically have my master's in fantasy football.
All right, that is fair enough. That is fair enough. Um, so Yvette, let's see here. So you have a podcast.
Mhm.
It's the Bougie Sports Podcast. What can you tell me about, or what can you tell us and the audience about your podcast?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the best thing about my podcast is that my podcast is the most talked about podcast that isn't a podcast, or that it's never been. I've never had a podcast yet. I just say that I'm having a podcast and just talk about having a podcast. So I just love being on social, like doing things like this. I love talking to fans. I love talking to people. So I thought that this is like a perfect outlet for me to do. So I just wanted to create a YouTube channel or something just to do things like this, you know, especially I think after the whole Deshaun Watson situation, I didn't really think there's a really big voice for women out there in sports. And it was hard, you know, having to defend yourself during that whole entire thing. I mean, we took a beating as women just for being a woman and liking it. So I kind of wanted to give us women a voice too, and just show that, you know, we like football just as much, and in my opinion more. I think that the more the women, the fans that I know that are women, are more passionate, and especially with fantasy football too. So that's another reason why I wanted to do it. And I also feel like for myself, my whole life I never felt like people took me seriously as a typical sports fan, because I am a bougie girl. I'm a girly girl. And I feel like not all sports fans can fit in one certain box. We're not all, you know, what you would think, you know. And so that's another thing. Like, you can love fashion, you could love things like that, and you could still kick everyone's butt in fantasy football. And I have a little girl too, so I'm trying to show her that you can be that way as well.
And how old is your daughter?
She just turned 4.
Wow, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun as a
Yeah.
fellow parent. And I'm working, I've got a 12-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. My daughter, she's not so much interested in the sports.
Okay.
In her vocabulary word of the week, the word was trivial. And I think the sentence was something like, sports are trivial because they are boring and you get sweaty. So
Hey.
I thought that was pretty funny. That
Yeah.
was good times there. So I did see, in your non-podcast podcast, you
One
talked
day
to the
it's
fellow.
gonna happen.
It will. It will. It absolutely will. You talked to you talked to the owner, the founder of GV Artwork. I
Yeah.
saw a little bit of that. How was that? Was that a interesting experience for you?
Oh my gosh, it was. I love doing that. I mean, I learned so much about that company, and just by talking and researching that, like, I had no idea that he was on Oprah. That, like, it's just crazy. I don't know if you know the story about them. So, and that was really cool. And like I said, I love fashion, and that's the type of entertainment or content that I would like to bring. And I think that's why it's hard for me to talk about having a podcast, because I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Is that a podcast? What is this? Is this a podcast? You know, like, so when you say podcast, I think people think this. But I think any type of content that you want to put out there is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you, Madison, but I mean, I would consider this a podcast. I know there's the podcast. There's a lot of people, they do a recording. You listen to their recording. I know my wife watches a lot of programs, fitness people, etc. And there's something for everybody
Right.
out there. And you don't have to have, like, I think they've made it so accessible to the general population to have, use your computer, use your cell phone, etc., that it's not that difficult. And if my signal goes out, I am going to sincerely apologize. I don't know why everything is on the fritz right now for me, but we'll keep going here. I know Madison will carry on the legacy, to carry on the torch for me if it goes crazy. So you're from Youngstown, correct?
Yes.
Are you born and raised?
Born and raised in the south side of Youngstown.
Okay. I think my brother was born in Austintown,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and I was born in Dayton, but grew up in Canton. And
Mhm.
Madison, your grandmother's in Ohio, or was in Ohio, and your dad. Where did your dad grow up again?
My dad grew up in Akron. Yeah,
In
so not
Akron.
too
Okay.
far outside of Cleveland. Yeah, we'd make some trips up for games every now and then.
All
We're all
right.
neighbors.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
Northeast Ohio family, I guess.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the Browns, the Browns season came to a close yesterday. It was a bit disappointing, a bit underwhelming, and I don't know if I should use the word disappointing. Love to hear your thoughts, guys. Madison, we finished 7-10. The record itself or the performance, were you disappointed, or was this what you expected?
Do you mean, I guess, for the last game or the season overall?
Let's talk about the season overall.
Yeah, I would say it's a disappointment. I mean, it's weird because, like, if you put the beginning of the year kind of frame of mind on it, you're thinking, oh, we have Jacoby for 11 games. Like, he'll be okay, probably not great. The defense is expected to be very, very solid. So, like, maybe they'll keep us in some games, and you're thinking, oh, we could win the first four. And then coming out and having Jacoby play as well as he played, and the defense playing as poorly as they played. You look back and you're like, okay, well, like now we're feeling pretty disappointed because those were games we should have won. You think about the Jets game, there's many games in there where we had plays that we would, probably like back. And it's just a handful of plays in the NFL that turn a whole season around. You're 3 or 4 plays away from, maybe making the playoffs. So I think it's hard to say not disappointed just because, I think looking back on it now, Jacoby playing as well as he played, but you feel like you really kind of wasted an opportunity.
Yep. And Yvette, what about you?
What do I feel like?
The season as a whole, we finished 7-10 based upon what we were looking at to start the season. We're looking at having Jacoby Brissett for 11 games and Deshaun Watson for the final 6. We end up 7-10. Was this better or worse than you expected? And would you take as a whole the season as a disappointment?
Yeah. Yes and yes. The season was an absolute disappointment. This is not what I expected. I guess that's your first mistake is when you have like any type of anticipations or hopes for this team, and I didn't expect it to go this way. That's for sure. The crazy quarterback soap opera that we started off with in the preseason to Jacoby to losing to the Steelers at the end. So yeah, the whole season is a disappointment, to be honest. I'm not happy at all. I guess in hindsight, if I could just bring anything positive to it, because yesterday after we lost, and I was like so annoyed, and I'm like, because I was thinking going into that game, like if we beat the Steelers and Deshaun Watson looks good, at least I will go right into the sunset of the off season with like hopes and dreams. But didn't you, like when he got sacked like what 7,000 times, 7 times? It was ugly, and yeah, it wasn't fun to watch or see. But I guess this is what I was gonna say. This is what I'm gonna think is the positive thing. Deshaun Watson, I hope he went home last night and thought, damn, I got my butt kicked by the Steelers. Didn't feel good. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that doesn't happen again. I don't know what your feelings on him are, but my opinion is I don't think he has had enough time to really show us what he's capable of. So I'm going to hope that we do see the Deshaun Watson that we're all expected to see. And if everything clicks, then we're on our way, hopefully.
Yeah, I understand. I hear you both, and I'm going to agree. On one hand, it's a disappointment, but I try not to have any kind of expectations for this team other than to disappoint me. I got into a discussion earlier today. I was commenting on something. I don't know if you guys listen, to the Really Big Show, but I watch them. I listen to them in the morning. And there was a question about should they have fired Stefanski as well as Woods. And I was saying Stefanski's game plan was brutal. And so I got a response from somebody and whose name is, let's see here. I think his screen name, his handle is Slob Vila, which I think is pretty, pretty interesting and funny. But Slav Vila didn't agree with that. He said basically, bro, Stefanski says nothing in press. You think he's going to reveal his good plays and schemes in the last few games of a lost season? Just relax. I'm thinking to myself, now, wait a second. You're saying in the last few games of a lost season? So I'm like, what do you mean lost season? It wasn't until the last 2 weeks that we were out of the playoff race. I mean, we were still in this thing. If you look at the fact that what's the final playoff seed? The Dolphins got in at 9-8. Now, we had a lot of hurdles to overcome because of tiebreakers and stuff. But the point being, it wasn't completely over. And if you looked at this as a completely lost season from the outset, what's the point of even watching? What's the point of even watching? And if a coach is going to go out there and be like, this is a lost season.
Because we can't turn away.
Exactly. It's like a car crash.
Why.
It is definitely
it's like a car. Like everybody likes to watch the disaster go down. Every Sunday, we're like, "Oh, this is going to be great."
Yeah, absolutely. So I was, overall though, I would say it was certainly not the greatest, not the best way to end the season. And I was going to ask you. For the season, this season that, we all kind of agree was a disappointment here. Go around the room here. What was your best moment of this year's Browns season? Madison?
I will go the 4th down catch from Njoku. I just think that was a solid, fun moment. I mean, it was like an unbelievable play at an unbelievable time. So I would probably go with that. I may have a close second if we want to do those. I won't give it away in case it's anyone else's, but I may have a close second.
I was hoping you were going to take mine.
Hopefully, I'll let everybody else go. We can come back if we want to.
All right, Yvette, what about you? What is your top memory from this season?
First game when we beat Baker Mayfield, when everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to get the Vikings by Baker Mayfield," and we did it. It was like the best. I was like, I don't think I got that feeling again this season.
Yeah, you actually took mine, and it's kind of sad that we crescendoed in week 1 with that 58-yard field goal from Cade York, and it never quite matched that this season.
It would have been way worse if we lost.
Just to bring them down.
Absolutely, yes,
Not
absolutely.
us. I'm just saying, media. I don't, but like Cade York, for example, that poor kid. It's like Cade York, we love him. We hate you. We're fine.
Yeah.
I love you. We hate you. I love you. That's how we are with everyone.
It's a very what a bipolar type fandom.
Oh gosh. It's like that though for every team. Like I just say that you can watch any game, like the talking heads. I can't stand them. Like at the beginning of the game, they're like, Josh Allen's so good. Josh Allen's gonna win this game. Josh Allen's losing. Well, we told you Josh Allen need to work. Oh, wow. Change your story.
Yeah, and just our comment here, our friend Factory of Sadness, it is pretty pathetic. So best part is that the season is over.
True that.
um, okay, so all right, so taking some, you know, yesterday, let's just, you know what? Yesterday's game was not good. And my biggest problem was that you saw other teams, you saw last night in the regular season finale for the entire NFL, you saw the Lions go out and do what the Browns could have done to the Steelers. The Lions went out and they had nothing to play for. They were already out of the playoffs because of the Seattle win, thanks to Baker Mayfield being terrible. And uh and they knocked
That's my quarterback.
yeah, they knocked Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs. That was just
I
overall
hate him so bad. Ugh.
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. He's just one of those guys. I hate his face.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
fair.
like his greasy haircut.
I don't like anything about him. There's just something he's a snob. Ew. He's mean to waiters. I'm telling you, he was mean to waiters. He just gives me that vibe.
I wouldn't doubt it. I definitely wouldn't doubt it. Let me ask you this. So this morning, and it was reported last night, we wake up to the headline that, in fact, Joe Woods has been relieved of his duties. What are and we've requested permission now to interview Brian Flores, former head coach of the Dolphins. He's been this past season the Steelers linebacker coach, Jim Schwartz, the Eagles defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, who's with the Seahawks, and Gerard Mayo, a linebacker coach for the Patriots. What are your thoughts on Joe Woods getting the axe after this season?
I mean, I don't think I have an argument that he should keep his job. It's hard for me to comment on things like that. I think it's because I don't understand so much of the mechanics of that front house of football and what really goes on in there. All I get to see is the record. And the record tells me you should get fired. You're fired. The defense sucks. Someone's got to go. I don't know who to blame. I don't think Stefanski's going to leave. I'm not saying he should or shouldn't. I just don't think that they're getting rid of him this year. I don't know.
Well, I think that obviously his press conference this afternoon, since he appeared there, he is not going to go. And as you talked about, Joe Woods, good riddance. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Madison, Madison, your thoughts on Joe Woods being gone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised that it's only him and not Prefer also. I mean, I'm not super surprised that Kevin's still here. And I think after the press conference today, it's pretty clear that they want Kevin here. And I think we knew that when they scheduled his press conference before the game even happened yesterday for today. But ultimately it was interesting because I think some of the players kind of backed Woods a little bit on his way out the door, which, maybe that's a little bit of okay, he's already gone. I can say nice things. Why be, bitter about it? You got a couple of comments from a couple of guys that, suggested, he overcomplicated things in the beginning of the year and they couldn't get it all together, which is why we had the blown coverages. And I don't love that because they are NFL players and you have to be able to handle things like that. But, if that's the situation, then, it's on the coach to recognize it and kind of simplify it if it needs to be done. But, they did that to an extent. Obviously, we had a pretty bad blown coverage yesterday, unfortunately, down the seam. So fixed to an extent, not, totally eradicated, I guess. But yeah, it's not too much of a surprise.
Yeah, one of the things that was telling about the press conference, first of all, Kevin, although it probably was a collaborative decision, he makes it sound like he sat down with Woods and basically was like, all right, you got to go. Sorry, dude. Love you, but you got to go. They asked him a question about, first of all, would any of the basically rest of the defensive staff be interviewed and considered for the defensive coordinator position? He's like, no. And that's pretty telling about what they thought of what they had there. And Madison and I were discussing, that maybe that's why Woods didn't get the axe in the middle of the season, because they had no confidence in anybody else who was under him to fill that void. Second of all, there was a question about Mike Prefer and whether he was necessarily safe. And he didn't, Stefanski didn't 100% say he's going to be back. Basically saying he's got to talk to these guys. So we may see Prefer gone. I don't know. I think the only coordinator that is safe is probably Alex Van Pelt.
I don't get like too emotionally connected to any of them.
And that's fair. Yeah. I mean, hey, look, my whole point is just win the game. That's
I was all about Kevin Stefanski, but you know what? I don't think it was only Browns fans. I mean, he didn't win Coach of the Year for nothing.
Right. Exactly.
What happened? I mean, it wasn't like the hottest Coach of the Year because it was Coach of the Year. I mean, if it was the hottest Coach of the Year, I get it. You're still winning. But if it was Coach of the Year, no.
Right.
That's what happened. They give him too much. That's why I'm kind of happy in a way that they got their ass. Are we allowed to swear in here?
Sure. Go.
Okay.
We'll keep it light swear. We'll keep it light swear here. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the A word.
Hey, all right, we're good there. I don't think the FCC would come down on us for that. But what are the thoughts on Stefanski's future? In my private conversations, I'll even say it here. Sometimes he is really Kevin Stupid-Fansky. He makes stupid calls and head scratchers on a game by game. In every game, you're just going, what is going on here? I didn't understand the game plan yesterday. When they were coming out throwing instead of running the ball. I just don't know and we'll never know. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Every once in a while, I think it's acceptable to be like, oh, wonder what he was thinking there. Oh, he's going to try to do that. But when it's like after every single game, when everyone's like, what the?
Exactly.
Then there's something wrong. Complimentary football, Kevin Stefanski. You're the one who invented that word. I say complimentary football because you said it so many times in 2020. Like, that's how I say that. That and what else does he say all the time? Yeah, we need to do better. Complimentary football. We need to do better. Complimentary football. We need to do better.
Were you guys reading my notes here? Because I have on here, which is the worst quote from Stupid Fansky. It's on me, or we've got to be better.
We've got to be better.
Yes, Madison, which is worse? It's on me, or we've got to be better.
I mean, I'm a former coach, so I can't pretend like I haven't said both of those things.
Where did you coach?
I coached basketball.
Awesome.
In college. Yeah, at a couple small schools in Virginia and North Carolina.
They made me play basketball. They forced me to play basketball because I'm tall.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, they learned quickly. They're like, okay, no, you're good. You don't have to play.
It's hard to find tall basketball players, I tell you. It is hard. We used to get soccer coaches being like, we have a tall kid for you, and it'd be like a 5'7" person. And we're like, that's not as tall as we're really looking for here. We're like, 5'11" and taller, please.
Yeah.
There you go. But should Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat next season? Is there any reason
Absolutely.
to believe?
When you go 7-10, you should be on the hot seat. When you have a roster that looks the way that the Browns did, you should be on the hot seat. When, like I said, when we're like, what the heck was that? You should be on the hot seat. When you don't take the points, you should be on the hot. Take the points. Why are we being cute? Why are we being funny? We're putting it on a show. Like, the only thing that he did good was wear hats. Good.
He did represent the elf well.
And the brownie, man. He knows how to. He might be like my biggest competition with trying to show a fashion shirt too.
He does have good fashion sense.
He does. I don't know. I hope to I want to love him. Obviously that's what we want. I want to believe in him, and I hope that I'm like Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year too.
Yeah, that would definitely be good. Madison, do you think that Kevin is on the hot seat next year, having a full season of Deshaun Watson, and barring another pandemic, is there any reason to think that there will be no excuse for him not to win next season?
I am of the opinion that the defensive coordinator that they hire will tell you a lot about where Kevin sits with the front office right now. if they're, I mean, they have a couple guys on their list that don't necessarily have head coaching experience. If that's the case, I think they feel pretty good about Kevin, and he won't probably get fired in next year if they bring in a Brian Flores or like, I can't remember whoever else they have that's got head coaching experience in the past. Then I think he's on the hot seat from the jump. And if that's the case, I'm of the opinion, like, let's not waste any more time here. If you're hiring someone because you think they'll eventually replace him, then what are we doing here? Like, we're wasting time. We're going to get 6 games into the season. He's looking over his shoulder the whole time. And then we waste the first 6 games because we couldn't make a decision right now, which is very Browns of us. So, I guess it's par for the course.
What was that? Juju Smith-Schuster, the Browns is the Browns.
No, that was Chase Claypool.
Chase. Yeah, he had a real great season in Chicago. He's turned out to be a real gem.
Yeah.
He is a real gem. Did you guys see yesterday the despicable move celebration?
I heard about that.
The Steelers players did. He pretended like they had sacked Watson.
About it, but I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I didn't see it live either. I just saw it after.
Right, and I saw it on the old Twitter sphere, and pretending to do CPR on the guy like that. You guys got to use your heads. That's a terrible.
You got to do better.
Yeah, that's a terrible look right there. In other news that came out yesterday, right before or around the time of kickoff, Bernie Kosar, the beloved quarterback of the Browns, relieved of his duties with the Browns organization as a result of placing a bet on the Browns.
So it is true it's about a bet?
I'm 99% certain that is
allegedly
what it is related. That's what it is. I mean, he promoted it on his program that he does with Hanford Dixon, and the NFL basically, according to everything I've read, Madison, tell me if I'm saying anything wrong, contacted them and made them aware of, hey, this is a situation. You can't be betting your personnel of the organization. You can't bet on football. And so they had to relieve him. I mean, what's the mood in Youngstown?
Well, we're always going to be on the mood of Bernie Kosar, but here's the thing. When I was in nursing school, we weren't allowed to get our nails done. It's so stupid, right? All the other nurses have their nails done, but we weren't allowed to. It's just the rules. So if that's just the rules, then it's just one of those things where it's just the rules. But I don't know whether or not did he know that, or is this, I know gambling just became legal in the state of Ohio. Or was it, is that real the reason? Sometimes was that the reason, or is this can we say that? I don't know. I think Bernie Kosar, what he should do is, I kind of like that he got emotional about it, because I do that all the time on Twitter, because if someone makes me mad, it doesn't happen that often, but I'll be like, oh, they hurt me. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, I didn't have together. But he kind of had that moment where he was a little hurt yesterday and went out to Twitter. But I don't know. I think that the fans are going to put what is most important in this business, money, anything, to the people that they like. So I think that Bernie Kosar, if he can't work for the Cleveland Browns anymore for the NFL, he's still the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he could still do his own thing. He could turn this around. Maybe he should make his own gambling podcast, do something like that.
Yeah, as Factory of Sadness for Life commented, Bernie should buy the Browns. I'm all in for that. I'd love to have him as part of an ownership group.
How much money would the Browns cost?
What do you think? It's got, the Commanders are talking $5 billion.
It'd be a lot.
It'd be a lot. It'd be about $5 billion.
Start a GoFundMe page and collect a whole bunch of money to buy the Browns.
It could be like the Packers, and all the fans could own them.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Imagine that.
It would be I think that'd be amazing. I think that one of the reasons that people appreciate Bernie Kosar so much, I commented again listening to the radio this morning about how he worked worked it out so that he could get to the Browns and get drafted by the Browns, or picked up by the Browns in the supplemental draft out of my University of Miami. And he wanted to come here. And what he did for the Cleveland Browns in the late 80s was fantastic. Um, and I was going to come around to this. Um, you know, my some of my earliest memories of the Browns were the mid 80s, the 80, 86, 87 Browns, when the dog pound first came about, and watching the game at my grandparents' house with my uncles and my parents, my brother and my one uncle. We took like a big sheet of, like, I don't know, wasn't I guess it'd be like a really like flexible plastic, but made a big dog bone, and put the dog, DAWG on there. And so I'm just wondering for you guys, Yvette, Madison, what are your earliest and or best memories of the Browns? Yvette, why don't you take that one first, and then Madison?
Yeah, I always say the best one of the best memories of for me is that there was a big rivalry in the Youngstown era because we're right in the middle of Cleveland and Pittsburgh. So there's always the in-house fighting on the Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. And so just being a kid and teasing my aunts or teasing, whoever about the Steelers is like one of my fondest memories. I think I think it goes back to like when you were telling your story. I was just thinking about that. That's exactly why the reason I'm not worried about Bernie Kosar, and who cares if the Browns don't want you on on their thing. The reason why you're gonna always be Bernie Kosar and you're gonna always do great with Browns fans is because of like the story you just said, because that's why we love the Browns. It's because of people like you. So you are the Browns Bernie Kosar. So, and you always will be, more than a lot of these people that are in this now. And that's just sports in general. I feel like it's just part of who you are. The people, the memories. It's more than just a game.
I agree. I agree completely. Madison, what about you? Your first or best memory of the Browns?
Yeah, so don't kill me on this, but the Browns were not around when I was like young and like aware that football was a thing. So I started out as a Panthers fan because I grew up in North Carolina. But when the Browns came back, I was talking about this with my dad, and I can't remember if it was the home opener in '99 or if we went the following year in 2000. I think it was the home opener in 1999. But we went as a family, and that's like the first time we walked through the Browns tailgate. And I mean, I was like 8 years old, so I was little, but I was like, we took pictures with all the famous dog pound people, and did that whole thing. And we stayed way, way after most people had left the parking lot. My dad's buddy passed out in a chair, and we painted his nails. I don't remember a ton about the game, but like the atmosphere was so fun. And so I would probably go with that one.
Wow, that's fantastic. I remember watching that game from my college apartment at Kent State, and I was one of my neighbors in the same building. She actually played on the Kent State women's soccer team, and she was from the Pennsylvania area, so she was a Steelers fan. Wow, that was just yeah, that was not pretty. Hey, Drew Carey was there. So we had that going for us. We did have Drew Carey there, but that is, yeah, it's fun times. But those are great memories, and going to those games and building that. It's more than just a game. It's building these memories.
And like in both of like your stories, a lot of it was not about the players. A lot of it about, like you said, you took pictures with the fans and other things like that. That is what I was trying to explain to people, and I was fighting on why I still like the Browns, even if you don't agree with anything. It's not about one player. It's not about that. It's about other things. And I don't have to explain myself to you, Twitter trolls.
Yeah, and Twitter is a very self-loathing group. We have there's lots of infighting there. And we've got a memory here from Factory of Sadness, 80s at his grandpa's bar in downtown Canton on Sundays. Best memories. And again, to your point exactly, Yvette, and Madison, myself. It's all about watching with family, and it's
Even the misery of it. Like, who doesn't
it
remember their
is.
dad shutting the TV off? Or like, my daughter was gonna be like, "Oh, I hate it when we watch the games and my mom be such in a bad mood." You know what I mean? Like things like that. Even that, even though we hate being miserable, it's like it's just in us, you know?
Well, does it bring does sports? Is it an opportunity? It brings us together, in sadness and gladness. Mostly sadness with the Browns these days, but but how I wasn't. So June 16th of 2000, or was it June 16th of 2016? Is that when the
I think
what the
so.
day was Father's Day
Father's
2000?
Day. It was Father's Day, yeah.
Father's Day 2016. I sat in my living room down here in in the Richmond, Virginia area, and my wife sat in the room, and she doesn't have one feeling or another on it. It's not her team, but or any team, but I was just so excited to watch the Cavs win the championship, and I brought my 5-year-old son to Cleveland that week to go to the championship parade, and
I was there.
yeah, it was amazing. I got some great pictures. I was
I was
just
there. I was in Cleveland at the night we won the championship.
oh my goodness, that must have been just amazing. I could feel the goosebumps on my arms as I watched it. Nearly in tears.
Yeah.
I mean, you okay, so Yvette, I know you're sporting the Suns jersey, the Sir Charles, but did you know that little Penny once wrote to me and said, "Dear Charles, my dog ate the phone book." You know, I think he was talking about whether he got invited to Kevin Garnett's party. I don't know, something along those lines. But you know, what about the Cavs? Do you have a favorite memory of the Cavs
Oh
and
my
your
God,
favorite player?
absolutely. Okay, so this is like, so when I was my biggest crush, my first crush was on Craig Elo. I don't know, like there's just something about him. I don't know. My dad loved basketball, so I think that like I didn't even become a really big Browns fan either until after the Browns came back from Baltimore. Like that's when I really became. I liked the 49ers as a kid because we're in Youngstown. That's where DeBartlet lives, and I was a front runner then. But I really loved basketball I really loved basketball. Watching, obviously, we talked about playing. Michael Jordan, that whole era. How could you? That was my first heartbreak. Michael Jordan broke my heart as a Cleveland sports fan when my man, Craig Elo, pumped him in front of the whole entire world.
Yeah.
I no longer liked him after that. Anyways.
Yeah, but
that's my favorite. It's my favorite memory because I'll never forget that day. How mad my dad. I don't think I've ever seen my dad ever that mad, ever.
Oh my gosh, Madison. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be the 2016 championship. I was watching with my dad, who, is a lifelong Cleveland fan, never got to see him, win anything. And there was a point where after we won, he like just walked out the front door in Kernersville, North Carolina, and the neighbor's kid came out and he goes, "We did it." And he wasn't, he was a LeBron fan, but like still, it was like a fun moment. I think maybe a close second. I got to go to game 3 of the 2015 finals. So that was awesome because they won by like 30. And, my cousin and I went and it was just a crazy atmosphere. We were way up high, but to be in the arena was awesome.
In the basketball game, it doesn't really matter. Like I feel like it still feels good in a basketball game. Basketball games are my favorite to watch live.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. I know I won when the Cavs were still playing at the Richfield Coliseum, and they were playing the New Jersey Nets at that time in the first round of the playoffs. And this is back in the day when they used to have Ticketmaster at your local Kaufman's department store. And I worked at the mall, and I went up to Kaufman's and bought tickets, and my dad and I went. We sat in the top row at the Coliseum in, one of those first round playoff games. And to see Price and Doherty and Nance out there, I mean, as you see, my screen name 4325 as a Cavs fan, that's Doherty and Price.
Oh, I would never do that.
So and Mark Price, I mean, could you imagine Mark Price in today's NBA with the 3-point shooting fest?
No.
He would be going crazy. So, you talked, Yvette, you and Madison both. You guys talked about your connection to Cleveland sports, your dads and stuff like that, and we've touched upon the family. Going forward, Yvette, you've got your daughter Madison, no children yet. Don't know if you're planning on it anytime in the future, but what do you take with you going forward to carry on? I guess this. I'm going to use the term loosely, legacy of Cleveland fandom with future generations.
Man, I hope my daughter. I've like, this is being a Cleveland fan is one of like the highlights of my life. Like just those fun things like going tailgating on a Sunday, going to the games, even just watching the game, maybe making meals. But if that's something that she wants to, hypothetically, let's just say she likes that. Either way, if she doesn't like football, whatever it is that she enjoys, that's the part about it. It's not, like I said, it's about the people that you watch it with more than the people that you're watching on screen.
Absolutely. Madison, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have my dog will give me a high five when I say "Go Browns." That's how we operate. We tried it. It worked pretty well for 2020. It lost some of its magic beyond that year, but we tried. But yeah, I mean, watching with family, and I want to say, if your daughter doesn't like them right away, I didn't like Cleveland sports right away either, because my dad liked them, and I was like, I can't support what you support. But I came around eventually because it is such like, it's a thing that connects people. And I think for that reason, I went to the dark side of, sadness all the time, minus 2016, of course. But hopefully we get some championships in the coming year. It's a new year. We've got a chance maybe with the Cavs. We've got a chance with the Guardians. I won't say we have a chance with the Browns just yet, but maybe. We'll see. By the time training camp rolls around, I will be on board with having a chance.
Yeah, we all will be.
Absolutely. Madison and I were talking last week for my son's big gift for Christmas, Hanukkah. We went to see the Browns and Commanders game. And we've been to preseason games when visiting Ohio, so we've gone to First Energy, but that was the first regular season game we ventured to, and we got 2 autographs, one not so well known, well maybe well known, one a little more well known. We got Bill Callahan's autograph and Deshaun Watson's autograph. So pretty memorable, but and hoping to get to a Cavs game sometime soon. Well, Yvette, this is a time on the show where we, kind of the idea of our program, we're going nuclear. We tie it into sports. Sometimes we have thoughts. It can be things that happen to us on a day-to-day basis that make us want to go nuclear. It's kind of like the airing of grievances here. As it's Festivus for the rest of us, as they say on Seinfeld. And I'm going to let Madison, if you have any thoughts, as we've concluded this Brown season, and just in general, if you have anything that's got you going nuclear, and then Yvette, if something comes to you that you'd like to share, maybe it's your Facebook story, Facebook, Instagram story, feel free to share. But Madison, what's got you going nuclear this week?
I will just say good riddance to NFL Sunday Ticket. I do not want to deal with it anymore. Thank God YouTube TV won that contract. I am hopeful for a much better experience. I will not even go into the lengths that my family went this weekend to watch the last game, because I've been sick, so I couldn't go out to the Browns bar that I normally go to. My dad and mom were in different locations, and you only get one stream. And I will not say what we did because it probably wasn't entirely legal, but we made it work and we all got to watch. And no thanks to DirecTV, their app was like not working, of course, on the laptop. And so we tried a couple other things. We did eventually get it. It was fairly smooth. It logged me out like 3 times, but like just move on. Like, let's not deal with DirecTV anymore, please.
Absolutely. That is something that always has had me going nuclear for multitude of years, and their ridiculousness and their policies as to who can buy your streaming service and who cannot buy your streaming services. Yvette, having heard that, anything that's got you going nuclear?
I don't know if we have enough time, but it's the most recent thing. I'm going to say it. What's got me going nuclear is that all I want is the Browns. If you can't do anything, can you just beat the Steelers like twice, 1 year, just once, one time maybe? So that for me, that's all.
Oh, that's you know what, that is quite fair. That is quite fair, and a good point there. Again, that we talked about this. That this would have been the first time since 1988 that they took a season series. Both games in a season series. It would have been nice to have come out and not laid an egg such as it is. It was rather disappointing. But what's got me going nuclear this week, and I've got normally a lot of grievances to air. It's just one of those things. That's how I go through life. Got lots of grievances here. I got problems. I got beef with people who don't know how to park their vehicles, despite having a backup camera. And I seriously want to confront some people and say, what is your major malfunction? Now, you've got people, there's somebody in my office building, she parks in a handicap space, okay, in the morning. Now, I have no idea what the handicap is. I for one, maybe there should be, maybe you should have to list your handicap on there so that you don't have to wonder why are they parking in a handicap spot. But, I'm like, this person is clearly driving a vehicle that has a backup camera. They're driving a Mercedes. I would love to take a picture of it, but I don't know how to blur out the license plate. But they cannot, for the love of their life, get within the lines. They're parking in the van spot with the slashes down the middle. How do you do this? How is it possible that you've got a backup camera?
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Oh, okay. Right.
We love it, Taylor.
I love Taylor Swift. She can do no wrong to me.
Thank you for admitting. I appreciate that. But no, it just drives me bonkers when I see that, and I see that out. People that are pig parkers too. That park in multiple spots. They think their car is so special. They're parking at angles. There's just some stuff. And one other thing that just I don't get this. Anyone can explain this to me. I'd love to know. The other night I'm driving and it's nighttime. It's dark out. What kind of a jabroni needs metal reflection on their mud flaps to shine my headlights back into my eyes? What kind of a moron needs that? This is ridiculous. I'm like, come on, man. This isn't a fashion show. It's a mud flap. It serves a purpose to flap off the mud. And it was in an obnoxiously large truck. So yeah, that definitely had me going nuclear on Friday night when I was out. And Factory of Sadness for Life, talking about your point, Madison, said all games should be on network TV, no Amazon, no YouTube, be gone. I tend to agree, but only if I can actually watch it. I mean, I want the option to be able to get it, while I'm not in the area.
I don't know why you can't just pick your area that you want to be in. Like, if I want to be in Cleveland for my local sports, like, follow a team and then just show me those teams. Like, I think they're going to do that next year, where, like, for NBA League Pass, they give you just the Cavs, so you don't have to pay for everybody if you don't want to. And I think they're going to do that for YouTube TV, where you can just pick the Browns and maybe save a little money unless you want to watch all the games. But we'll see. Time will tell. They haven't had any details out yet, but I am more optimistic than DirecTV.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time to figure that out. But the parking situation and reflection on the mud flaps, that has me going nuCLEar. You know, the sports always has me going nuCLEar. But, you know, that missed face mask call, the phantom pass interference call. Yeah, too many times that the refs have screwed us this season. But with that, I am going to bring the show to a close. Want to thank our guest, and again, point you to her Twitter handle at Yvette, YVETTE, like her first name, a middle letter M, and the Laboy, LABOY, is her Twitter handle. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. You're welcome anytime. We'd love to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Going nuCLEar is presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. Madison at madtravels24. Madison, thank you so much for picking up the slack while my internet dump.
We were winging it, straight up winging it, but we got it done.
You did. Yeah. You did fantastic. Way for picking up the slack there. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Going nuCLEar CLE. You can subscribe to us. We ask that you do subscribe on YouTube, share it with your friends, send us your comments. Like Factory of Sadness for Life, thank you for being back and thank you for being with us to share your thoughts during our show. And want to thank Craig Fountain, who helps get this show on the air through the Buzz Sports CLE. So that's going to do it, folks, for Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. For our guest, Yvette M. Laboy and Madison Delaney, I'm Ethan Greenberg. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.